It's undeniable that some people are drawn to power not to serve, but to control. Being a police officer carries real responsibility, and for the right kind of person, that responsibility becomes a public good. But others, they just want the uniform, the badge, the illusion of authority. While most who dream of wearing a badge go through the official process, training, testing, and years of commitment, some skip the line altogether, and Jeremy DeWitt is perhaps the most infamous example of what happens when someone decides to become a police officer without actually becoming one. Jeremy Charles DeWitt was born on February 10th, 1980 in Central Florida. From early on, he was obsessed with law enforcement. While still in high school, he enrolled in a dual program that had him training with the Orange County Police Explorers by day and attending the police academy at night. To the outside world, it looked like he was on the right path, but Jeremy wasn't patient and he wasn't interested in waiting. Before he ever had the chance to earn a badge, 18-year-old Jeremy got his first arrest for impersonating a police officer. It happened in May 1998. Jeremy pulled into a gas station, filled up $14.50 worth of gas, and tried to pay with a prepaid card. The card got declined. Rather than apologize or make other arrangements, Jeremy told the clerk he was a cop and would come back later to pay. He even gave his full name and address. He never came back. The clerk called the actual police, and Jeremy was arrested a few days later. It's almost comical. He gave his real info during an act of fraud. But the consequences were no joke. That one decision made him ineligible to ever become a police officer in the state of Florida. Jeremy's dream was over. But instead of letting it go, he found other ways to live it out. He picked up work as a security guard, and it didn't take long for problems to start. He was accused of illegally detaining and searching residents at the apartment complex he worked at. From there, the incidents piled up. In August 2001, Jeremy was arrested again. He'd driven a police-style cruiser to a mechanic and told them to bill the sheriff's department for repairs. He said the damage came from detaining a criminal. He was dressed in a bulletproof vest and had a police-style radio. When questioned, he claimed he was an undercover cop working at the local mall. But someone watching the interaction called real law enforcement. When officers showed up, Jeremy denied saying he was a cop. Still, they searched his vehicle and found clipboards, radios, a badge holder with a Dade County Sheriff's emblem, and even a black BB gun in a holster. His apartment held even more police gear, batons, badges, uniforms. That's when Jeremy's probation officer was notified. He was already on probation for earlier charges, and now he was facing new ones. The result, 1 year in jail, followed by more probation, mandatory counseling, and hundreds of hours of community service. He was also explicitly banned from possessing any law enforcement gear. That should have been the end. It wasn't. Just months later, Jeremy was back in court for violating community control, a more serious version of probation. And it wasn't just one issue. He was caught using a fake name, had his suspended license, owed tolls, and had created a fake ID under his roommate's name. Jeremy was spiraling. The most serious charge came in 2005. He met a girl at a nightclub who told him she was 18. They hooked up. They met again a month later. Then, in January, a warrant was issued for his arrest. The girl was only 15. Whether he knew or not remains unclear, but the court saw enough to convict him. He was sentenced to a year and a day in jail and 5 years of sex offender probation. And this pattern would repeat. In 2009, Jeremy violated probation again, this time for trying to set up an airsoft team with minors, something he was explicitly barred from doing. He was facing 8 more years in prison. He served 4. After more than a decade of arrests and jail time, most people would try to rebuild their lives. Jeremy doubled down. He couldn't legally become a cop. He couldn't keep pretending outright. So he found a loophole. He tells the story on his YouTube channel. He and his wife were walking near an intersection when a funeral procession got into a major crash. Jeremy claims he ran to help and called for emergency services. That was the moment he said it clicked. I can do this better. And so Metro State Special Services was born. In Florida, funeral escorts are allowed to guide processions, but only under specific rules. They can help navigate intersections, but they cannot direct traffic, stop drivers, or act like law enforcement. Metro State didn't follow those rules. Jeremy didn't just walk the line, he charged right over it. The company looked like a police department, black and white motorcycles, sirens, lights, badges. Jeremy even issued his team badge replicas that closely resembled real ones. Their uniforms, almost indistinguishable from those of the Orlando PD. He called his team motor officers. It was all technically legal, but it was designed to fool people, and it worked. Footage from Metro State escorts shows Jeremy yelling at drivers, screaming at civilians to get out of the way, threatening arrests. In one video, he says to a motorist, "Get out of my funeral now, or I'll take you down myself." Most people complied, because who wants to argue with someone in a badge, vest, and helmet barking orders with sirens blaring? But the law was clear. Funeral escorts don't have that kind of power. They cannot direct or detain drivers. They're not allowed to stop cars, jump medians, or tell people to pull over. Yet that's exactly what Jeremy did, over and over again. Some drivers pushed back. One man repeatedly asked if Jeremy was law enforcement. Jeremy dodged the question, insisting only that he knew what he was allowed to do. Another driver filmed the interaction and later told police he feared for his life after Jeremy grew aggressive and put his hands near what looked like a gun. Jeremy's tactic was simple: wear the uniform, bark the orders, and avoid admitting anything explicitly illegal. It worked for a while. But things were falling apart behind the scene. In addition to his constant legal trouble, Jeremy's personal life was a mess. He was married, but he also had an account on Ashley Madison, a site for married people looking to cheat. Using the name SF Ops 2015, Jeremy sought out exotic women and began chatting with a woman named Jennifer Burton. They met. He showed up in a Metro State cruiser wearing law enforcement gear. They hooked up, but Jennifer eventually discovered his real identity and that he was a registered sex offender. She confronted him. He denied everything. Then she reported him. Police began investigating. Jeremy was charged with failing to register online accounts, something required of all sex offenders. He hadn't disclosed his Ashley Madison or Kick accounts. It was another felony. What followed was a tangle web of restraining orders, allegations, and threats. Jennifer later claimed Jeremy assaulted her in an ambulance. Police investigated but found no evidence. Still, Jeremy ended up violating his community control order and went back to jail. Meanwhile, Jennifer claimed he pressured her to change her testimony, threatening suicide or to flee the country with his wife if she didn't comply. The lines between his personal disasters and professional recklessness were now fully blurred. And yet, Jeremy kept pushing. In September 2019, Jeremy was arrested again, this time during a funeral escort. Police had finally had enough. Sergeant Keith Vidler and Corporal John Ramsey had been quietly building a case for months. They wanted to shut Jeremy down for good. Within months, he'd be arrested 5 more times for the same types of charges: impersonating police, assault, illegal recordings. It wasn't just about appearances anymore. Jeremy was recording calls without permission, carrying pepper ball guns, and challenging drivers to fights in traffic. In one video, he chases a man, calls him a boy, and dares him to get out of his car. Jeremy's own body cam captured many of these incidents. And yes, he actually labeled one incriminating folder Jay's Cool Stuff. Public complaints about Metro State were rising. Drivers felt harassed. Funeral processions were dangerous. Jeremy allegedly planted fake 5-star reviews online to counteract the backlash. And then, in what might be the most bizarre twist in an already surreal saga, Jeremy went on Dr. Phil. He defended his company. He claimed the uniforms were different enough. He insisted he wasn't impersonating anyone. Then came the lie detector test. He failed miserably. The test administrator called it one of the worst scores he'd ever seen. Jeremy brushed it off his nerves. Shortly after, he was arrested again, this time for violating probation by leaving the state to film the Dr. Phil episode. And somehow, it still wasn't over. In 2021, he was arrested for domestic violence after allegedly hitting his wife with a phone. A month later, Jennifer called the police again, this time accusing him of assaulting her after she tried to leave. More restraining orders followed, more legal chaos, and eventually, Metro State itself began to crumble. Jennifer Burton briefly took over the company's YouTube channel. The old website tracking Jeremy's crimes suddenly turned into a platform defending him. Articles were scrubbed, critics were attacked. The tone shifted. Whether Jeremy or Jennifer were behind, this remains unconfirmed. But the timing was suspicious. By late 2021, Jeremy was in and out of jail again. By 2022, he had been sentenced to 18 months for various charges. Then in 2023 and 2024, new fraud charges emerged: check fraud, insurance fraud, and false tax returns. In November 2024, Jeremy was sentenced to 7 years in prison for failing to register a new vehicle as a sex offender. Just 2 months later, he got another 41 months for filing false taxes. As of now, Jeremy DeWitt remains behind bars. His earliest possible release isn't expected until the early 2030s. After over 25 years of arrests, impersonations, and absurd excuses, the man who wanted to be a cop will spend the next chapter of his life surrounded by real ones. It's a tragic story in some ways about obsession, delusion, and a refusal to accept reality, but it's also a cautionary tale because when power becomes the goal instead of the responsibility, bad things happen. And in Jeremy's case, it happened over and over again. If you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. Be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more stories like this one. Whether it's law enforcement wannabes, online controversies, or internet folklore, we've got a lot more coming your way. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and watch out for fake badges.